You ever stop and think about how an AI, a machine, can possibly make sense of our world? It's messy, it's complicated, it's often contradictory. Well, today, we're going to dive into a pretty radical way of thinking about intelligence itself. And the key? It's all about looking at the shape of what isn't there. All right, so let's start with a really simple question. How does an AI actually know what a chair is? I mean, sounds basic, right? But the answer? Well, it reveals this huge shift in how we're building these intelligent systems. We're moving away from a world of hard facts and into a world of probabilities. And honestly, this right here, this is the core idea of this whole explainer. The entire revolution in modern AI, it really just boils down to this one powerful shift in thinking. Instead of trying to define what something is, the new way is all about learning everything it is not. So, to really get why this change is such a big deal, we've got to go back a bit. We need to look at the old way, the very first attempt at AI. And what was it? Well, it was basically trying to write a giant logical dictionary for, everything. This whole approach, it was called symbolic AI. And the idea, it felt super intuitive. It was like, hey, if you can just give a machine a perfect definition for something and a set of logical rules, it should be able to understand the world, right? It's kind of like teaching a kid straight from a textbook. So let's go back to our chair example. The rule seems pretty simple. You just tell the AI, a chair has 4 legs, a seat, and a back. Boom. Clean, logical, totally straightforward. But almost immediately, the real world just throws a wrench in the works. What about a stool? It's got legs and a seat, but no back. So is it a chair? According to our rulebook, nope. But we all know it basically does the same thing. You can already see our neat little definitions starting to fall apart. Okay, then what about a beanbag chair? It's a seat for sure, but no legs, no back. It's definitely not a chair according to our rules, but we literally call it a beanbag chair. The exceptions just keep on coming. And hey, what if a chair is just broken? It only has 3 legs. Is it suddenly not a chair anymore? The problem becomes crystal clear, right? You just can't write enough rules to cover the absolute messiness and variety of the real world. The number of exceptions is literally endless. So yeah, the big takeaway here is that this whole dictionary approach, it just failed. It completely collapsed under the weight of all those real-world exceptions. Reality is just way too complex, way too fluid to ever be captured in a tidy list of rules. Okay, so if the dictionary idea was a dead end, what replaced it? Let's look at a totally different way of thinking about this. If pure logic doesn't work, what's next? Well, the new approach is inspired less by a library and a lot more by the laws of physics. And this table here really lays out the massive shift in thinking. We're moving from the old way, explicit rules, definitions, logic trees, which was all about trying to include things, to the new way. And what's that? It's about statistical gradients, boundaries, probability landscapes. The whole goal shifted to excluding things by contrast. So in this new way of thinking, a concept like chair isn't a dictionary entry anymore. Instead, I want you to picture it like a valley or a basin in this huge landscape of possibilities. All the things that are really, really chair-like, they're all sitting right at the bottom of that valley. So what does that mean in practice? Well, when an AI sees an object, it's kind of like a marble rolling down a hill. It just naturally settles into the deepest, most stable valley it can find. And that valley, that's the concept. The AI isn't logically deciding what it is. It's just sort of relaxing into the most probable answer. Okay, so that's the big question, right? How does the AI learn to carve these valleys of meaning in the first place? And the answer is both super simple and pretty profound. It learns through the incredible power of understanding what things are not. I love this quote because it just perfectly captures the idea. You don't make a sculpture by adding clay or describing it. You make it by chipping away all the marble that isn't part of the sculpture. The final shape is revealed by everything you take away. And it's the exact same thing with music, right? The notes are just one part of it. The real meaning, the rhythm, the feeling, that all comes from the silence, the negative space between the notes. The meaning is created by the contrast. So the actual training process for an AI, it's exactly like that sculptor at work. It gets shown thousands and thousands of examples of chair and not a chair. And for every single one, it makes a tiny adjustment, carving a little boundary in that probability space. And over time, those boundaries get sharper and sharper until these deep, stable valleys of meaning just emerge from all that data. Now, I know this might all sound really abstract, maybe a little weird and machine-like, but here's what's so wild. This whole process of creating meaning by figuring out what something isn't, it's actually incredibly familiar, because it's pretty much how our own minds work too. Just think about it for a second. Your mind isn't some library filled with dusty old definitions, right? No, it's more like a dynamic landscape. And every experience you have carves these deep channels for some ideas and builds bridges between others. Every time you learn something, you're literally reshaping the terrain of your own understanding.
And you know what? This whole act of creating boundaries, it's fundamental to pretty much all of life. A single cell has to know what's inside versus outside to survive. Your immune system is constantly distinguishing self from non-self. It turns out that intelligence in any form is really about the ability to draw a line and separate one thing from everything else.
So, all of this is leading us to a really powerful new way to think about what intelligence even is. It's something that has way less to do with just storing facts and a lot more to do with shaping the very fabric of what's possible. Okay, so here it is, the big idea we've been building up to. Real intelligence isn't about how many facts you have stored in your brain. It's the ability to take this ocean of pure uncertainty and carve stable, meaningful patterns into it. It's not a database. It's a living, adaptive geometry. And this idea, it kind of forces us to ask an even bigger question. So what does it really mean to know something? If knowledge isn't just collecting facts, then what is it? Maybe knowing something is less about having a perfect map of the world and more about having the skill to find your way through it without one. And that's really the ultimate takeaway here. The goal of intelligence, ours or an AI's, isn't to conquer uncertainty, to get rid of it and have all the final answers. No, the goal is to learn how to sculpt meaningful pathways through the unknown. That's how understanding happens. Because in the end, the shape of what is not is what gives birth to everything that is.